What's up, creative community? It's such a blast, and I'm really pumped about today's episode of Talks on Acting with my man, the great, superb human being, the wonderful Meisner acting coach, Matthew Corozine from the M.C.S studio in Miami and in New York. We're talking about the craft today, about handling criticism, about how to make it in entertainment industry and still have fun exploring ourselves and really produce the best outcome possible. Welcome back to the show, Matthew. I'm really, really excited to have you.
Thank you, Lorenzo. It's great to be here. Always, always.
It's such a wonderful time every time we kind of engage, we can meet and we talk because I feel
Yeah.
like we have so much in common. We have that same pulsation, that same beat and lust for life, that thirst of exploration. And so I think it's like I've already seen by the comments when we posted our last video, I can see our creative community draining a lot of valuable stuff and precious information out of this encountering.
Yeah. No, it's a thrill to meet like-minded people, and then also people that you can learn from and raise you to the next level. And I'm always after that.
Absolutely.
So, it's good. It's good to be in this community, and we got to have community. You can't do this alone for
Right. We need
sure.
a culture. Absolutely. We need a tribe and we need a community. Tell me a
Yeah.
little bit, how did your 2023 started? What are your upcoming projects? How are your acting schools going? Indulge us.
Yeah. We expanded a class in Miami. So my associate April has her own sold out class now in Miami, which is just
Wonderful.
awesome. So we have this really cool wait list and people come in to audit, and we've become like the coolest little show in town,
Nice.
in downtown Miami on Monday night. So it's really been a special place. So that's been really good to expand there. New York's going well. We took another space. So we have three spaces,
Hmm.
three different size rooms, one for on camera, one that's our main stage theater where I also teach in, and then we have another like classroom slash rehearsal room slash readings of new plays and stuff like that, which
Right.
seats about 35 to 40 people, which is
That's
really special. Yeah, it's great. So
man.
that's expanded great. DC is going well. I'm going to check in with them later the month. I'm going to do a master class in DC in April, and I'm opening up M.C.S. LA in May. I'm going to go there to do a master class, and two of my former students are going to start a once a week class in LA. That's the goal, and I'm just going to recreate what I did in DC and what I did in Miami, and the formula is there, and hopefully the heart and
Oh yeah. I mean, if you're
you
doing
know
it, then there's always a lot of heart involved. So it's
yeah.
here, man.
So
You're
yeah, so that's been good, and I have a project that I want to act in at the end of the year in New York. We're going to do a stage reading of The Normal Heart by Larry Kramer, and I get to act in that opposite two-time Tony winner Randy Graff, who teaches voice at my studio. And we're going to do that as a benefit for World AIDS Day on December 1st in New York City. So like, there's like some cool things, for me to not just be an acting coach and a teacher too, but to also just
yeah,
expand artistically and do uncomfortable things and scary things for my own self so I can continue to grow myself,
absolutely.
which is really important to me, as I know that's important to you. So yeah,
Absolutely.
like I just want to keep growing and learning and being uncomfortable and finding new ways to, create.
Absolutely awesome, man. I think it's gonna be a blast for your students, for your clients to come in and explore this whole new world, this new facet of Meisner that you're proposing, like you're saying in your book. Like if you survived seventh grade, you can be an actor. It's such a marvelous book, man. I'm reading with such a pleasure. I
Thank
finished it
you.
actually, and I'm kind of jumping back to my notes I took on Kindle, kind of studying some more aspects of it a bit more thoroughly, and I love it. It's great entertainment.
Oh, thank
A
you.
lot of good guidance. So a creative community out there. We're gonna include the link in the comment section down below and the description down below. Make sure to buy this beautiful book. It's such a refreshing, rejuvenating take on Meisner, plus your beautiful own, very chaotic and messy and great and beautiful experience in your life that you put in there. And there's so much to explore. And yeah, I can only imagine how great the classes are. And who knows, maybe soon we're gonna join forces on different other fronts as well to give the community something tangible and precious. Yes.
Yeah. I love that.
Our business is full of critiques. Our business is full of criticism. Our business is of, also full of shady people who are, bad mouthing, talking, behind your back, all that stuff. But also like the openly constructive critique. Sometimes we have problems to deal with because we identify with our work. We put so much, sweat, so much labor, so much beautiful passion
It's
into it.
it's personal. Acting is
Personal.
it's so personal, right? Or even I remember years ago when I directed a play, and it's so personal, right? and then somebody's critiquing your work. It feels, I don't know, so different than, I guess, if I worked some 9 to 5 job and they didn't like how I filed something. I don't know. To me,
Right,
I've never
right,
had that type of work, but for me, I mean, it's like, God,
right.
that's how I see the world, and I
Yes,
created that, and I did
yes,
that, and you don't
right.
like that? Like, it's
Yes,
so
like
bizarre.
right. How do you do
Yeah.
that? How can you kind of absorb that information and kind of filter what's useful and discard the useless? How did you get there to kind of be as objective as possible with the critique?
You mean with critique of my own self or my
Yeah,
class, or
yeah.
how?
No, foremost with yourself, because I feel like most of the times the newbies that are watching this, right, they're jumping with a lot of enthusiasm into the
Yeah.
craft, taking acting classes, traveling all over the place, and all of a sudden when they work their monologues and they get this sometimes constructive, sometimes destructive critique, it's I can see that a very a lot of folks are sensitive and like we were saying, they identify themselves with the work, and so it's hard to kind of deal with that and how to filter what's really useful. And I
Yeah.
wonder what
Yeah, I
your
mean, I think those are two arenas, right? There's the arena of outside people that I don't know, or people
Mhm.
that take my class and maybe it's not for them or something. You know what I mean? Like me dealing with that kind of critique, right? And then
Right,
there's actually, if you're an actor being coached and
right,
you're dealing with critique, or
right,
somebody that's just reading comments where somebody critiqued you. You
sure,
know what I mean? So you
absolutely,
have to take the source of what it is, or what
right,
Brene Brown says, if the people are not in the arena,
right,
pay them no mind, right? So
right,
like, I have to be careful of, I think I can count on one hand the people whose opinion I actually
like value, right.
value,
Hmm.
right? Like my partner, I have a coach named Tessa who's a longtime student who's a career coach. My partner Alen, my assistant,
Hmm.
you as a colleague, I trust you. You know what I mean? And there's certain people that, okay, they're in the same space that I'm
Hmm.
doing.
Hmm.
So I'm going to trust, or anybody that's built a business that's running. In the arts. That's a huge thing. I give people credit for that, even if I'm not aligned with everything about them. But to be creative and entrepreneurial and give a service to artists and last through the years,
Yeah,
that's a
right.
big thing. Like,
It
that's not
is.
nothing.
Right, right. You can
That's something.
yes, at least.
Absolutely. That has value.
Mhm.
So I think, Lorenzo, I'm careful with who I put. I'm a little more selective, as
Mhm.
one has been around for a bit, like, of
Right.
who I let in.
Yes, yes.
Um
So you
and
would
and
say that like one good strategy of navigating this business for a long time without getting hurt too much and absorbing too much negativity would be to establish first for yourself, like, where is this critique coming from? Is this from my inner circle of trust? Is this from my
Yeah.
second circle of trust, let's say, or for the
Yeah.
from the third layer? And how much do I want to get involved with that type of information? How much do I kind of suck it in and absorb it fully? And the filters, like, how much bumper do I place in between each circle, and how much do I
Yeah.
really to get from that?
Because of course we care what people think, right? I know there's that, I don't care what people, I mean, we're not sociopaths. We do care
Of
what people think, and people do hire us and pay us, right?
right.
So I do care. I just try not to be so attached to people pleasing as much as I did when I was younger. And
Hmm.
that's hard. You want to be liked. You want to be, we all have, I think, a deep fear of not being enough and not being loved.
Of
I mean, I
course,
just think that's in all human beings, right?
of course.
So it's just careful where we get our validation or our love from, right? I
Hmm.
think
Hmm.
younger years, and still always working on just not getting love from being validated, right? And sitting in the uncomfortable, that I think what makes you special is that you aren't for everyone, right? So the people that you are for, or like do resonate with your teaching
Right,
or your craft or your work, it's really special, and you create a team. So
right.
I love that. But I'm somebody who also wants to grow, and I know growing is uncomfortable, and I have to learn how to deal with disappointment.
But isn't it? I mean, the fact that greatness can only come from a place of overcoming these types of obstacles and understanding that they are there to kind of tell you whether or not you need to improve something, or whether or not you can discard some type of information, right? I mean, that leads us
Yeah.
to the mastery of
Yeah.
the craft in a way.
Yeah. And that's why I think you have to have a team to soundboard it, because
Hmm.
I can't see it
Hmm. Hmm.
because I'm in it. So right when you're in the jar, you can't read the label. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I need people to,
Oh,
I need to be coached within about this exact topic.
right, right. And that's why I always like, especially the younger students that come into the Coach MC studio, I tell them like, when you rehearse a monologue, why not show it to your friends, like to your real friends or to your family or to the people you really deem like very close to you, and give them already like a glimpse of the notion and see what the reactions are, not necessarily what they say, or don't take like,
Sure. Yep.
don't take any,
Right. Right.
notes or anything, but just see how they react, how they kind of vibe with you, what the resonance is, because there you
Yep.
get already like a feeling what is working and what is not working. And then when you go to acting schools, to drama schools, to the audition, and you show it, right, and you get maybe harsh critique or constructive or negative critique, whatever it is, then you already kind of have a sense like, that is maybe why my best friend wasn't too excited about that part of the
Yeah.
moment. That is maybe why my family wasn't, like cheering or maybe sobbing at this place. Okay, now what? Maybe I understood something. Make it gradual for you, because nowadays I feel like the younger generation that is coming into the game, they want a lot, they want it fast, and they get the focus is hard to achieve, because nowadays the distractions are massive. And so to really tune in with what your product is, you need to have that line, that track that belongs to you, where you can operate and feel like what is working, what is not working. Am I on the right path here or not? Am I, delivering enough steam and traction to my lines or not? What is missing? And
and there's something to be said, Lorenzo, of like sometimes things just take time. Like just to what you said about things being fast. Like I find students either are not working maybe hard enough and fighting hard enough for their
yes.
work or their craft, or they want it so much that they're so overzealous of what can I do better? Like, and I'm like, you just have to sit in that you're doing fine, and you're not allowed to have an answer right now. And your body just has to calibrate that this is good work until the next thing presents itself that you're going to have to do. You know what I mean? So sometimes as a coach, I have to have that conversation of, okay, my brain just wants it now,
right.
but I'm missing where I'm at right now. I just need to be where I'm at. And you got to normalize being an actor.
Oh yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
And you got to normalize creating trust with someone and getting critique. That's normal. To be directed is like, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
You have to normalize that in your brain. And I think that takes some time to trust people and yourself. I think trust and worth is a big thing of what we're talking about here. It's hard, man. It's hard. You don't want to be everyone's cup of tea. Yes, you want to be everyone's cup of tea. Yes. You want yes people, but you don't want yes people. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it's conflicting,
Yes, you want confirmation and validation and gratification. Yeah, but then again,
you don't want bullshit.
Right.
Somebody just saying that, but like, so it's good to walk that line.
It's a task in the task, right? To be a working actor and at the same time working with these subconscious levels of being an actor, of getting there, of making yourself wired to the occasion, and really kind of, lighting up.
I mean, everything's about relationships, right? Like I wish I knew that when I was younger, but I certainly know that now, right? Like everything is about relationships.
In your book, you describe it in a magnificent way. I totally can understand how you channeled your insecurities, your inconsistencies, and your inner conflicts through Meisner, through the repetition, through creating automatisms for yourself, through putting that messy stuff into the repetition, to kind of channel that frustration and that anger. Again, like coming back to the younger generation, and to see like for the last 7 or 8 months that are coming into the game, I feel like they have sometimes a problem with describing what their real ambition is, what their real desire is, what the big dream here is. Like, oh no, I want to do this. Yeah, but what is your ambition? What is it that you're fighting for? There is this tendency nowadays in society to suppress anger, to suppress all what is deemed dark and negative and all that. And by all means, I don't mean to be overly and excessively angry and violent.
But that suppresses joy and love, and I think that maybe that's where you were going, and passion. You can't listen. I think some health. You see Beyonce, she's got some anger. Like I think some anger is. I don't think that should be our only motivating drive. And maybe when I was a kid, that was. Now I'm not being driven by that. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I think it's important to have a little of that in you.
Yes.
that you want something better for yourself. You know what I mean? Like you got to have a little bit of, you got something to say.
Yes.
Injustice is such a great, I think actors have a great sense of, there's some injustice that they're fighting for. I mean, as a human, there's so many triggers of the news in the world. I mean, you don't have to go far. You know what I mean? Like things just not being fair, like that is the hero's journey, right? Like we're called to do this thing and then, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Totally. And I'm searching for that indignation in the text. I want that indignation, that charge to kind of be carved out and to finally see it. Yes, there is always something we're indignated about. Even like super smooth performers like Sade or Alicia Keys, even those performers have that temper, that little anger pocket inside of themselves, and you can see it sometimes when they they open up their voice and they really kind of conquer the masses.
Yes,
there was also this high frequency going on, not always like the smooth and the agreeable and beautiful person that they really are, that they surely are. It doesn't exclude the other and vice versa.
But we all have conflicts, right? I think artists are called to act out the human conflicts that are just part of being human. Like there's just this unknown stuff, or no matter how much work you do, there'll always be an area in you that, or Meisner would say, no matter how much therapy you do, you'll always have two triggers in you as a person. Otherwise, you have nothing to say. You just play squirrel number 5 or nurse number 3. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? You know what I mean? But like, but this is what you have to say.
Have you
this
been
is the source?
No, absolutely. Have you been, you feel like, because you kind of touched upon that a bit, have you been too agreeable in the past? And you feel that people were kind of rolling over you or taking advantage of that, you being generous and positive, like, per se?
I think when I was a kid, before I was in the business, I think as a kid, I was people pleasing, just wanted to be liked, and I took a lot. And then I did my Meisner work, and then I went the opposite way, where I was like, and my teacher used to say, it's like, hey, you're not born to take shit. You better react. You know what I mean? Like, he used to say that. And I think that I developed a personality of like, I was so the other way that I went the other way.
Yeah, the pendulum swing.
Which I think is very, very normal.
It is.
And I think now I even it out, but I needed to go the other way, where I was such a truth teller, and I needed to call everyone out, and I was fighting with everyone, and it was like, I think I even say that in my book too. Like it was a lot, but I was so repressed one way, that I went to that first. It's like being a perfect kid and then being a rebelling and being a party animal. It's kind of the same thing. I did that just emotionally with my personality. So I went to this other personality because I just was shut off from that. And of course, we have all of that. All human beings have everything. Now I can regulate and turn a dial. You know what I mean? And I think the technique that I teach and that I learned and what I'm doing with myself has self-regulation is an amazing thing.
Oh, absolutely. It's fascinating.
I don't think I had any of that as a kid. Like I didn't.
No, me neither.
I had no mindset. Or I didn't have any information on how to walk on the earth. I had zero life skills. I had zero life skills.
That's cool.
Like really.
That's
cool. I learned how to floss, and I learned manners, you know what I mean? But like I had like zero life skills on how to deal with conflict or be in negative things, as you brought up earlier, Lorenzo. I thought that was, we don't have those things. There must be something wrong with me.
Why is nobody teaching us that when we were kids, when we were getting, because
I don't know, it was
like crucial stuff to teach to kids.
Yeah. How to be in disappointment, how to lose. Like, I think even if I was bullied at school, I hid it because I really thought nobody could help me. And I didn't want to find out that nobody could help me. Like, that's horrible, Like, I just felt like this isn't supposed to happen, so let me just not pretend it didn't happen. Just pretended it didn't happen. I was, living in fantasy land.
So it's good.
Which saved me, right? Like Fantasyland, like I wanted to live in, I think I said this last time, I wanted to live in the Chocolate Factory. I wanted to live in Narnia. I wanted to live in Oz.
Oh yeah.
I did not want to live in Westchester County in the 70s.
Absolutely. When I realized that my parents were about to divorce and that there was always fighting and yelling and screaming going on in my apartment, I would go to a music cassette deck and I would record fantasy stories.
Yes.
I would escape, right?
Thank God for that. And that is part of our art, you know? And I mean, when Judy Garland opens a door from black and white into color,
Yes, yes, yeah.
forget it. Emotionally as a kid, that was like,
Wow,
I
yeah,
was in black and white. I wanted to
right.
live in color. You know what I mean?
That's
And then now I learned that I actually really love the black and white too. You
that's
know, I love that part of myself as well, right? Like that is also really important.
contrast. And we need
Yeah.
sharpness and we need edginess. And we need, like in this business, it's really hard to survive because first of all, you have to kind of operate in your real life in a more way adequate manner. Otherwise things go crazy and nuts. And then you have to jump in all these crazy wild circumstances and all these imaginary pockets of creativity with this other character. And you should, you know, at best pretend that this other character takes things even more seriously than you take it in your real life. Now all of a sudden these become the most crucial moments
Mm-hmm.
of your existence, those 3 high condensed minutes of, you
Yeah.
know, well, what the fuck is going on? The clashes of belief
Yeah.
systems, the conflicts, the love, the passion, all that, the resentments, the regrets, all that. That is what we want to show to the audience. Of course, in a structured, beautiful manner where everything makes sense, you know, in the oscillation of the dramatic arch that is spanning over the play or over the movie. But in the end, it's us filling these gaps. And we are
Mm-hmm.
all these experiences are us. So there's no need to suppress them or just throw them
Yeah.
away. You can do that for a certain period of time because it's easier to deal with the situation at hand in this very specific moment. But at a certain point, you have to open up that drawer, right, and
Yeah.
clean it up. Otherwise, it
Yeah.
will turn on you, and then all of a sudden, you will hurt yourself. It will become
A-
toxic to yourself.
a- absolutely,
Don't you agree?
Lorenzo. Oh, I mean, that is it. Yeah,
Mm-mm.
you said that really, 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 really well. I don't know if I am an expert on how do you live in the real world and be artistic and sensitive and connected to all your stuff and be vulnerable. I mean, it's a very interesting dance. Do you know what I mean? Like I get that when people leave my classroom, now real life is a different place. And we're now living in this heightened reality of truth,
Mm.
not the truth of your real life. In real life, I can be passive aggressive and shut down. That doesn't translate well on stage and screen.
Not really.
Me just being documentary version of Matt, it may or may not, you know what I mean, or somebody. Like
Right.
we need to be trained to actually connect to our vulnerability and let people see it. Because our brain protects us. That's what the brain does, right? Like, and I think I said that last time I was on your show, you know, like, and that's the brain's job. So we got to trick the brain out of the way so
Mm-hmm.
you fall in love with the doing and go on the ride, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak, right? And then the meaning of where things really live in you, like you said, like you got to find, you have these 3 minutes to do this height where things are more meaningful to your character than they are for you.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to find the meaning in your real life,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what you bring to it. We all have meaning.
Right.
The world has taught us to like casualize it or get
Yes.
stuck in it, you know, or do all these things to hide
Yeah,
it.
or deflected into an agenda that's not belonging to you. Oh, all of a sudden, yeah, no, this is, you know, my
Yeah,
protest.
or mostly play a role of somebody who doesn't care.
Right. Or makes a lot of money on your back and you don't even realize it. And you're feeding an agenda that
Yeah.
really doesn't belong to you. The
So we
only,
are all walking around the earth doing some form of method acting, where
Mhm.
we're playing a role that we learned to play. That's gotten us what we want, but it's not really who we are. But then we want this next thing, but we have to like ditch this old way of being that's going to feel like we don't know who we are. And can you just hang out in the hot heat of the unknown
Right. Right.
and recreate yourself?
When I hear this, I always think about Warner Brothers Looney Tunes, right? The red carpet, no, the red tent is kind of floating up,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then boom, it closes down. Right. And this window of opportunity that you get because the tent, you know, opens up, this is your world. And it can be whatever you want to be, but you have to understand that there is, like you said, it needs a certain flow, it needs a certain traction, it needs to go somewhere. You know, we as personal private human beings, we can be sometimes passive aggressive or not caring at all, or just tired or whatever. We just grab a coffee at our coffee place, we say hello and goodbye, and we don't really care what's, you know, going on around us. But when we're on stage and the tent is opening up and the Looney Tunes are, you know, going nuts, everything potentially can matter and nothing, right? But anything can
Mm-hmm.
be an exploration, a discovery, something to be surprised of, or something unexpected. Everything can be potentially interesting. And if you don't have that type of focus of wired energy, then you're going to miss out on a lot of potential that is going on in the scene.
Right. So I believe in moment to moment, right? And writers write this moment to that moment. And that I love writers when they say, I don't know what my characters are going to say. I just get them in a room and they start talking. You know what I mean? It's just, they start talking to me and I just start writing what they say, right? So they're essentially working off each other. Right. Which I love, which is why I think that's why I love the Meisner work, is because there's actually an exercise that actually conditions your body to work off your partner, not just somebody telling you to work off your partner. Like, okay, how do I do that? Like, so it actually is like a ballet bar or scales for a pianist, I say in the book, I think, and Meisner was a pianist, so he really came from those drills and this is how I train an actor to work moment to moment in a heightened reality of just acting before thought. And I love moment to moment. Even last night they did a scene in my Miami class from La La Land, and I'm sure every acting class is doing it now. But it's a great scene. It's well written. It's contemporary. It's about actors and artists. So that's great for actors and artists to play actors and artists, right? Because the meaning is already there. Hopefully, and in the beginning they're like, oh, this is a great dinner or something, whatever the text is, and they had like a bottle of wine that was empty and they thought they had water in it or something, and they poured it and they were like, and they like laughed because there's nothing in it. And in the first line they use that as to say it's so good to be home, like, look at our stupid life, we don't even have what, like the subtext, it really happened from the doing. They weren't pretending we're supposed to have what, like, I love that. And what that true reaction to the doing might be wrong for the production, might be wrong for film, like props, let's get some wine in there. Like, I get that.
Yes. Yeah.
I get that.
Right.
But like for these actors to train and use that reality, that mistake is so much better than the pretending it's not happening and let's drink fake water. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I love that. And that made them just work off each other in that first 10 minutes. That scene was never done that way because these two people have never been in that moment with the wine being wrong. Do you know what I'm saying? So that in itself, I love that. I'd rather have that all night. Do you know what I'm saying? Than like, let's set
absolutely.
it.
I mean, I can only.
You can teach any monkey to set it, of course.
Of course.
Turn here, traffic cops. We've all worked with I get that. Necessary. It's necessary. Of course, there's lighting, there's blocking, there's cues. I get it. I'm not stupid. I get that. But then there's also this part that happens in the doing where you leave yourself alone and you go on a ride. How the hell do you teach that?
Right.
For people to leave themselves. I mean, that's a whole world that really interests me. And I know people are like, well, how does that get me a job? I can't really tell you how that gets you a job, but on some level, it makes people attracted to you and it makes people want to hire you.
That's
because
how.
You're a human in the room.
Because you are attractive, because you are natural, because you're authentic, because you're spontaneous, and nothing attracts more than spontaneity and truthfulness and genuinity.
Right.
That's what is fucking attractive about human beings.
Isn't it?
Of course.
We all know when we work for results and we have agendas, that sucks.
That's why the title of the show today is or the theme of the show is about, dealing with these judges, with these critiques, and with this result-driven type of mechanic society that we are in this matrix that we're in. Because I can totally understand what you're saying there. On set, it happens all the time that all of a sudden there is a slip-up, there is a mistake, there is something happening that is spontaneous, the glass falls, and now we have to clean it up during the scene. And that is usually the take we're gonna take. That is usually the scene we're gonna record and we're gonna air, because that is full of life and unpredictability and beautiful little tweaks and twitches and spasms and all that stuff. And juicy, there's a lot of things going on. All of a sudden, the intracultural communication. Give me the napkin, and we're still talking while we're cleaning up the table.
That's
the magic. That's the stuff we want to see. And if you are doing that, if you're fulfilling that, that's why I get so furious on set when actors throw their scene because something unexpected happened. What the fuck? Continue.
What the
fuck are you doing? This is the best moment.
Yeah.
Usually when you play it to the end, production is going to say that was marvelous.
But Lorenzo, it's deep. People are really wired to do things right, whatever that means. And that's certainly made up in humans, what right means. You know what I mean? Or like, I won't, I need this to happen in order for me to, like, how much will, I don't have enough. Like, we live in such a not enough world. Like, what will ever be enough? That's made up too. Do you know what I mean?
An excuse. I feel that's
everything's just made up.
I think that's an excuse. Like overly perfectionist people. I met a couple of Matthew. I once had like a workshop and like an atelier where I was painting back then in Stuttgart. It was like one of the best moments of my life. I could just paint throughout the day. Besides me, somebody else had his workshop too, and he was an incredible painter. Like, I'm telling you, an incredible painter. But he had like serious problems with, exposing his art, going to exhibitions and, and placing it into galleries and selling his art, because his excuse was, no, it's not ready. It's not finished. No, the painting is not ready. What the fuck? It's perfect. It's beautiful. No, he was still looking for something, and that was all made up excuses, because ultimately he didn't want to face criticism. And sometimes you ruin your career over that you are not opening up and say, now give it to me. I did my work. Now, whatever your work is, do it and just give it to me. And maybe some of these voices I hear, some of these critiques and, judgmental, reviews or whatever, maybe I can use them. Maybe some of that stuff will actually be helpful and make sense to me, and say, yeah, you know what, today you kind of nailed it. Today I was really like this. And then you refine it, implement it, and get better the next time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a funny thing, Lorenzo. It just made me think of, like, you do want to do the thing you do so well, right? That you master it, right? Like, I love unblocking artists. I love that. I feel I'm so good at that. I love that, right? And I do that through teaching acting, right? I teach acting, but I don't really teach acting, right? We all, tennis players are working out their life on the tennis court. I believe that, right? It's a microcosm of something of life, right? And then you also want to grow. You also need to do the other things that you got to take some risks. You got to, and part of taking risks is getting some criticism. And listen, my first year in Miami, I wouldn't say I hit a home run the first year. Like, it took a year to establish now the growth of it, but the first year was rocky. I mean, my years in New York building my acting studio, now I feel really good about it, but like, you got to go through what you got to get. It's a risk. You're doing something you haven't done. You're thinking new thoughts. Your brain is recalibrating to the risk that you just did. Your body's not used to it. So risk taking is important, and you're gonna mess up. You have to. I mean, what did they say? Michael Jordan, right, the greatest basketball player ever, missed 50% of the shots he took.
Incredible.
50%.
That's incredible.
That's like normal.
Right.
And he was the best.
Right.
Like, you have to mess up, and you have to have that grace, and to learn how to do it better, and to get back. Like, and I think most of I see in young actors or students now, like, the problem is that they shouldn't be having a hard time is the problem. Not that they're having a hard time, that the thought of that I shouldn't be, or this should be easier for me, or why can't I get it? So you suffer twice.
Yes.
You suffer twice. The first suffering is your body can't play fucking guitar because your fingers aren't calloused. How do you get calluses? Your fingers actually bleed. I mean, I'm not a guitar player, but I come from musicians, right? My dad's a sax player. You got to develop your lip. Your lip fucking hurts and it bleeds.
Yes.
And then you develop skin over it that protects you because you hurt yourself. And now your body is trained on how to hold it, and do it, and move it.
Yes, that's how you develop.
Why is not everything is process? Everything is conditioning. Everything.
And ultimately,
everything.
The process is the goal. Ultimately,
it is. But you have to, unless you come from a certain background of maybe certain dance people or certain athletes, certain people. I had to do it too. I had to train myself to get dopamine from the process, because I didn't know how to look bad in front of people. I didn't know that, oh my God, I said I'm going to do this thing, and now I'm doing this thing and I'm not good at it. I don't want anyone to see that. I just want them to see the good thing. Now, even when I wrote my book, like, whatever, you announce it on social media a year ahead, I'm going to write a book. And then you're like, fuck. do you know what I mean? Because I'm not the person yet who knows how to write a book. And I got so much dopamine from just announcing it. I was like, I'm good. Like, fuck. Now I got to write this. You know what I mean? Like, I had to learn how to create a team, to create a process to get people to help me. Otherwise, I would have never.
That's a very smart move, because by announcing it, you kind of force yourself, right, into doing it.
Listen, I will say of myself, what I say I do, I will do. Like, I play a game with myself saying, what I speak, I will create, right? So I know that if I say it, I'm going to do it. Like, even last night, and I hold my actors to this, one of my students, she said, we're training her to, like, just to go there and whatever. And she's like, well, old habits die hard. I'm like, if you want that to be true, keep saying it. It doesn't need to die hard.
Right.
Let's have it go now.
Just switch it
up now. You can give it up right now. You have no obligation to be who you were 5 minutes ago. You can have a breakthrough right now. You don't need to. We wait 2 years to finally be like, okay, I had enough. You had enough 2 years ago. You just waited 2 years to get out of that relationship. Right. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you can have an aha moment. I'm having one right now. Like, I get it. Now, can I do that perfectly every time? No, I have to now condition and get conscious and create. Do you got me?
Yes, absolutely. And it's more about creating that high standard of quality that you can, reach all the time, instead of always trying to find that super pinnacle, mega summit point, peak performance type of stuff, because that's, again, like an excuse of not doing it. Oh, no, I can't achieve like super peak performance today. I'd rather procrastinate. I'd rather play whatever. I'd rather go out and drink, right? No, it's not about always hitting that peak. I bet like 90% of all, climbers, professional climbers, they dream of going to the Everest. They rarely reach the Everest, like all of them, all the time. Sometimes they give up at 4,000 meters. Some of them give up at 6,000 meters. It's the dream, the big vision that you want to be there on the summit point. But actually, just a few mountain climbers ever reach the top of Mount Everest. That doesn't mean that people wouldn't try it anymore, or that it's unnecessary to try it, because the quest up there and everything that you learn, that is the valuable stuff. Once you're up there, so now.
Yeah, I mean, I love the story of the blind man climbing Mount Everest, right? He's not doing it for the view, right? You know what I mean? But like, I mean, what he went through to get to the top, do you know what I mean? Like,
that's beautiful.
Journey to get there.
Right.
It wasn't, so you can look at the top and be like, look, I made it to, like, we think it's like
selfie or anything.
Selfie, right? And it's like, well, a blind guy, he wasn't interested in that. You know what I mean? And I love this saying too, the universe only gives you what you think you're worthy of receiving. And what makes one feel they're worthy is consistency and showing up when you fucking don't want to. And having bad days, or what we call bad days. They're actually not bad. They're just days.
They're just
like, so the universe is only going to give you what you think you're worthy of. So if you're not showing up and only doing it when you think you're good, then that your own worth is like low. So what's going to create your worth to grow, I believe, is consistency and showing up. You're now the type of person who does that, no matter what.
Jim Allen.
I'm the type of person that does that.
Yes.
And then that kind of gives you an edge, because you feel like you deserve more. Because I know I get up every morning and I meditate and I write every morning. I know I do. I set my day and I'm intentional about it. Bam. Doesn't mean I still have better problems, so I still have problems, But like, I'm the person who does that. Do you know what I'm saying? So I know that, like, that's not even negotiable. Like, that's not debatable. That's a fact. It's a habit.
Is this a good way of escaping that judgmental mechanic that we have built in our system in order to free yourself to be like really remarkable on stage?
I mean, the word stage, I guess, could be remarkable in life, right? It could be interchangeable with anything, right? Absolutely. I mean, I think
all worlds are stage.
Yes. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Your relationship to yourself, and we are our habits and rituals, right? So I think when I coach people one-on-one or something and they want to change, I'm like, well, we got to start with how you wake up in the morning. Number one, what are your thoughts, right? So I start there, like thoughts and your actions, and what's going on subconsciously and what's been wired it, right? What beliefs do you have about that stuff starts to come up, and then we can start seeing it and then creating the new meaning.
Because I feel like people are living too many thoughts that are not theirs. They are not.
Well, you said something great too in the beginning. You said people don't even know what they want or love. I do this exercise in class. You have 5 minutes to bring in your dream audition, as if they're adapting it for screen or they're doing a Broadway play of The Godfather. I don't care what you do. Like, just bring in 5 minutes of material of your dream thing. I mean, some people take that and it's amazing. Other people cannot even find what they love. They can't even admit that I love this. It's so confronting. It's so confronting to admit what you love, because I think that's associated with pain.
For sure.
So it's painful to people have learned that it's painful to love things. Lorenzo, then these people are driven by disappointment and cynicism. And of course they'll never get what they want because they don't even like it. That's nuts. You don't even let yourself love things.
The crazy
and
thing.
So I'm working on it too. I'm working on like
Right.
just receiving, like if someone compliments me, like just receiving it. And it's hard, like, just like letting myself love it. Let myself love this right now. You know what I mean? Like just let myself love where I'm at. Even if it's what I have to pay a parking ticket up for my Vespa on Friday. Like, cool.
It's a funny thing, and I think we're resonating both on the same frequency there, because if you can determine what you really love, what you really cherish, what you really, really need deep down inside of yourself, it doesn't mean that you need to come up with it like from the spot, but start with the current, start with a tendency, start with something that comes close to that feeling, start by exploring that. But people are even afraid of admitting that in the first place because they think, oh, maybe of the guilt, maybe of the overall responsibility to save the world, maybe to think, oh, my small wishes, they're just futile and whatever, mundane, or just, they are yours. You are an enormous, incredible human being. You are creative worlds if you want. If you stop yourself by the first thing that your heart needs and feels, how are you supposed to entertain the others and give them inspiration for 2 hours straight?
I mean, it's what, and Tony Robbins says it all the time. It's creating a compelling future. So if you don't have a compelling future to draw you forward, you don't want anything. Like you have to have that compelling, specific future of what you want. And then I go further with some more and then that you already have it. Those feelings that thing is going to give you, if you already have it, like attracts like, right?
Yes.
Like you put two guitars together, you string one chord, one string, it will vibrate on the guitar next to it.
Yes, we are resonance bodies.
That's nuts.
Yes.
That's nuts.
Yes, I work because you're drinking the water. And I worked 2 years with a university in Stuttgart that was exploring the fact that water is a container of information. And so what they would do is they would take a label and write Hitler on top of that label and place it on a bottle of a glass bottle of water. And then they would take another label and place unconditional love and write unconditional love on that.
Wow. And
place it on the next bottle. And after 30 days, they would freeze the water and, take it under the microscope. Believe it or not.
Yeah, I do believe that.
The structure of the water under the microscope from the bottle where Hitler was written upon was completely destroyed. It had no vectors connecting with each other. It was completely in dissync.
Wow.
It was completely in dissonance. And the water that we took out of the bottle where we wrote unconditional love or Dalai Lama or Mahatma Gandhi. Strange enough, with Dalai Lama, it wasn't that good, but with Mahatma Gandhi, it was perfect, crystal shaped, strong, beautiful, elementary.
I wonder what would happen if we wrote our name. I don't know if I want to find out.
No, I don't want to.
But that reminds me, Lorenzo, even of a study they did where they went into the park and they gave somebody a hot beverage and then they gave someone a cold beverage and it was a cold day or something. And they told them the story and then they asked him about the protagonist, and the person with the hot beverage felt favorably towards them. And the person with the cold beverage or no beverage hated the protagonist. It's just priming. You're just prepping that person for that. But that's even another quantum level, whatever you're talking about there. I've heard that. But you actually did that.
Yes, I did that. I was the
That's wild.
That experiment. Like, you can't even believe it, because it was a Japanese scientist who started doing this. And then in Stuttgart, there was this Canadian researcher who wanted to prove that as well. And she had this friend, and she was an acting coach, a beautiful lady, Vivian Scheuerle, a magnificent actress, but an even better coach. And she was also doing Chineseology. That's like asking your body through muscle reflexes if you like something or not. And she found out in various sessions that I'm one of the perfect conductors to do this. So she brought me to Sicily to test volcanic water. And through my body, she asked the water what the water needs and what they want. And we started labeling and brought this stuff back to Stuttgart, where they analyzed it and kind of found out what the crystals were doing.
That's so wild. I love it.
It was wild. It was beautiful. But that was actually a great acting experience as well. Because if you resonate with your water, we are 75% water. We are just energy conducting through water. If we are conducting our water with good thoughts, with good intentions, with power, and with the right attitude, and we can create good thoughts. Like you were saying, you're not You don't have to sit here. You can go. It's up to us how we decide how to maneuver and how to transmit through our water.
It's fascinating. I love that stuff.
It told me so much about performing, about resonating, about being in the right vibration and the right mood to really perform. Because till then, I mean, of course, I was doing it consciously. I was at drama school, but these experiences, like what we touched upon beforehand, like everything, you can integrate almost everything. You don't need to be scared of anything. Pick it up, channel it, use it. And by doing so, you get control over it, and you don't have to be afraid of it anymore. You demantle, you deconstruct that myth of fear and of the incredible obstacle, and all of a sudden it appears to be rather small. It's like, this was holding me back all the time.
Yeah, it's not real, but you think it's real, right? The mind doesn't know the difference between what's actually happening and what you think.
That's why Meisner.
It's wild,
right?
It's wild. I mean, that's why imaginary circumstances is so like really, your mind does not know the difference. That's crazy. It's virtual reality is so
holographic.
Crazy.
Yeah, we're living in a holographic.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah. I always say the Matrix is a documentary, right?
It is.
I know a lot of people say that. Yeah.
I mean, the first I kind of saw that movie is like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now I got an explanation.
Yeah, or even, do you remember The Truman Show? Do you remember that with Jim Carrey? Yeah. I mean, I only saw it once, but I remember like feeling like that was me.
Yes.
I was lied to, and like, or like The Wizard and the Wizard of Oz. Like we're told this thing will fix us and heal us, and we're sold this thing. Like we've all been gaslit. You know what I mean? Like life will feel good if you have that, and then we get this thing and we're miserable. You know what I mean? It didn't work.
You know what? It's just this crazy thing. I loved the Chronicles of Narnia when I
me too. I still do.
That the author actually took this from a town in Italy that's called Narni. And
he did.
Yes.
C.S. Lewis.
In Narni, there is like an underground city that is mirroring the upper city. And when I found out this, I was like, what?
Does it still exist?
Yes, of course you can go there and explore, but just little parts because you can't access the whole.
Where is Narni, Italy?
I think it's Umbria. I think it's it's Umbria.
He was British.
Yes, but he was referring to that town, and
yes,
I'm sure there are drawers on this planet that you can open up. I'm 100% sure. I'm totally serious.
I hope so.
No, they are.
I hope so.
Oh, that was a blast, man. It was always quick. It kind of passes very quick, but it's very, very valuable, very intense. It contains a lot of critical juice. This was very powerful. Creative community out there. Matthew Corozine, M.C.S. Studios, New York, soon opening up also in Los Angeles, but also in Miami. Book his courses, go to his classes, plunge into the madness of Matthew and his beautiful teachers, and read his book. I'm going to link it in the description down below.
Yeah, and we have the audio now too, so you can even, if you want to hear more of my voice.
I downloaded the audio too. And you're reading it great. It's nice stuff.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Lorenzo.
Thank you for your
appreciate you. Really, really appreciate you.
You as well. Talk to you
Grateful.
soon. Thank you, creative community. See you next time.